When Miss Havisham's fiancé left her, her heart was broken. As time passed, however, she wanted to take revenge on men. She decided to adopt a daughter so that she could teach her how to break people's hearts. When she told Mr. Jaggers that she wanted to adopt a little girl, he brought Estella to her. He told her that Estella was an orphan. "It is my fault that Estella is so cruel. Forgive me, Pip," Miss Havisham cried. I told her that there was nothing to forgive. I knew that I would always love Estella, even if she was cruel to me. Miss Havisham was crying more now. I did not know how to help her, so I thought that I should leave. Before I went, I walked for a while in the untidy garden. It was so full of memories. I was thinking of Estella and my first meeting with Herbert when I suddenly had a terrible feeling. I was sure that something bad had happened to Miss Havisham, so I ran back to her room. I quickly opened the door. Miss Havisham was still in her chair, but she was screaming. A spark from the fire had fallen on her wedding dress, and now it was burning fiercely. I was wearing a thick coat, so I took it off and used it to cover her and put out the flames. I also pulled the tablecloth off the table in the dining room and used that. The spiders ran away in all directions. I didn't notice that I had burnt my hands until the fire was out, and we were lying on the floor of the black and burnt room. Miss Havisham was badly injured and unable to move. The doctor came, and then I waited for Miss Havisham's relatives to arrive. It was late in the afternoon before I opened the gate to leave. As I left, I heard Miss Havisham crying out again and again, "Forgive me, forgive me." I was in pain when I reached my lodgings that night, so Herbert washed and bandaged my burnt hands. If I sat quietly and rested, my mind immediately went back to the terrible fire. Herbert noticed this and did his best to talk to me about other things. As he worked, he told me that he had had a long conversation with Provis and had learnt much more about his past. About 20 years ago, Provis was in love with a young woman called Molly, Herbert said. They were married and had a daughter. Provis loved the child very much, but one day, after an argument, Molly disappeared with the little girl. Provis was afraid that his daughter was dead. "Oh, sorry, did I hurt you? Is the bandage too tight?" "Not at all, Herbert. You are very gentle. Please continue the story." After several months, Provis heard that Molly had been accused of murder. Some people thought that she had killed the child as well as an older woman. Provis was very upset and did not go to the court. Mr. Jaggers worked as Molly's lawyer and she was acquitted. But Provis does not know what happened to Molly or their daughter after that. "Herbert, this is incredible. Provis is Estella's father." I went at once to Mr. Jaggers and told him that I knew that Molly and Provis were Estella's parents. He explained that when Molly left Provis, she had hidden Estella. Because the little girl suddenly disappeared, Molly was accused of murder. Miss Havisham wanted to adopt a little girl at that time, so he took Estella to her. And once Molly was free from prison, he asked her to become his housekeeper. "Now that you know the truth, I advise you not to repeat it to anyone," Mr. Jaggers said. I promised that I would not tell anyone. Soon afterwards, 2 letters arrived. One was from Mr. Wemmick, telling Herbert and I that it was time to help Provis escape. The second letter did not say who it was from. It promised that I would find out more about Provis if I went that night to an old house on the marshes near my village. I thought this was probably important, so I decided to leave at once. But first I left a note for Herbert, telling him what had happened. It was dark and wet as I walked to the old house on the marshes that evening. The pale light of a candle in a downstairs window helped to guide me there. I knocked on the door, but nobody came. Then I tried the handle and found that the door opened easily. As I went into the building, however, I was hit by something. "Who is this?" I shouted. "Help! Help!" A man's strong hand held me against the wall. With my burnt arms I could not fight. Then I was tied up. By the light of the candle, I recognized Orlick. "Now I've got you," said Orlick in a loud voice. Then he shouted, "I am going to stop you. You have always spoiled things for me. I lost my job at Miss Havisham's because of you, and you told Biddy not to trust me." I knew that calling for help would make no difference because the house was too far from any other building. As I stood there, tied up against the wall, I thought of all the people who would suffer if I died now. Provis would think I had deserted him. Herbert would be sad. Joe and Biddy would never know how sorry I was for my behavior towards them. "I'm going to tell you something," he said quietly. "You made me angry and jealous, so I took my revenge. Now I knew what had happened. Orlick had found Provis's leg irons years ago when they were forgotten on the marshes. So Orlick had deliberately left the leg irons in the kitchen when he attacked my sister. Nearly everyone who saw it thought that a convict had committed the crime. But now Orlick was going to kill me. He ran towards me, and I fainted. When I opened my eyes, Herbert was next to me, and Orlick had gone. When I left my house that morning, I had dropped Orlick's letter in the entrance hall to our rooms. After I had left, Herbert had found my note and the letter, and he had started to worry. He had met Startop, our friend from Hammersmith, and together they had followed me to the marshes. He arrived with a group of men from the village, and this had saved my life. But now there was no time to look for Orlick. We had to help Provis escape. Any delay would be very dangerous for him. Herbert and I had already made plans to help Provis escape. I was to go with Provis abroad, so I quickly packed a suitcase and took it with me to the river, where Herbert and Startop were waiting by our boat. We didn't know exactly where we were going, but we had to get Provis out of the country without anyone else seeing us. The sun shone as we rowed slowly along the river so that no one would notice anything strange about us. Provis joined us in the boat when nobody was watching, and we went further down the river. Late that evening, we tied our boat up and spent the night at a nearby inn. We continued our journey the next day until we came to the place where steamers took on passengers. Then we stopped our boat in deep water and waited. About an hour later, the steamer to Hamburg appeared. We thought that this boat would be our best opportunity, and we felt confident that nothing was going to go wrong with our plan. Provis and I said goodbye to Herbert and Startop and stood up. But as we did so, another boat stopped next to ours. In it were some police officers and an older man. It was Compayson. My heart nearly stopped in surprise, but Provis was the most surprised of all of us. He wasn't expecting things to end like this at all. "Abel Magwitch, also known as Provis," a police officer shouted. "You must come with us."